Welcome back to the kitchen, everybody. This is your boy, the Mad Chef. And, if you've read the title, then you know this is our 2-year anniversary special. And being on YouTube for 2 years as the Mad Chef is just absolutely mind-blowing to me. It hasn't felt like it's been that long. But thank you to everybody that has joined me along the way. Old viewers, new viewers, you're all friends of mine, your family, and I love you all. And this is a very special video because we're one-upping our anniversary challenge game every year. We're doing a pizza. We've done a lot of pizzas on this channel, but this is not going to be a traditional pizza. This is going to be one of my favorite fast food pizzas that I've ever had. This is going to be a Chicken Alfredo pizza. Those are really yummy. I really like those, and we're going to do it unlike any other restaurant ever has. Instead of doing the traditional grilled chicken topping, we're going to be doing this with an Italian breaded chicken cutlet. We're going to be making our own Alfredo sauce. No fake Alfredo sauces, though. We're going to be doing a traditional style Alfredo. Before we even start this recipe, if you have not watched my video on New York pizza dough, click the link in the description, or we got a card floating around there. We are using that exact same New York style dough to make this pizza. We have fermented it for 72 hours. Why, you ask? So that way it can hold up to the incredibly rich, strong, thick cheeses. So we need to make sure that not only do we have a flavorful crust, but one that's strong enough to hold up to all this. Enough talking. Let's get to prepping our chicken. So in front of me, I have 3 beautiful boneless, skinless chicken breasts that I've neatly trimmed up, and all we're going to be doing is splitting them in half to make 6 nice sized fillets. And once you see the bag, you know what's about to happen next. We're going to take each of our fillets one at a time, put them in the Ziploc, and pound them out till they're about 1/4 of an inch thick. We want these to be pretty thin because not only do we want them to cook quickly and evenly, if you have a thick chunk of chicken or thick chicken pieces as a topping on a pizza, it's not really going to be a very good eating experience. So we want it consistent and thin to ensure we have the proper bite for our pizza. And once that is done, we're going to very gently season these fillets with just a pinch of kosher salt and freshly ground black pepper. The reason why the seasoning is so light at this part is because there's so many other items that are going to have salt and salt-like qualities. There's going to be a lot of Parmesan, and that cheese is pretty salty. There's salt in the breading. You get the picture. And once everything has been nice and seasoned up on both sides, we're going to go ahead and take them to our breading station. And this is just 2½ cups of all-purpose flour that I've gently seasoned with 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, a pinch of kosher salt, and some ground black pepper. And this is our binder, which is nothing more than just 4 large eggs beaten together with just a small touch of kosher salt. And this is our breading. In this container is 2½ cups of regular plain breadcrumbs. You can use panko if you like. I just went with the original. And then we're just going to season this very lightly as well with just 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, some freshly ground black pepper, and a teaspoon each of parsley and oregano, keeping things simple because we have a lot of strong flavors in our sauce. And we don't want to lose sight of any of those magnificent flavors by overcomplicating our chicken. So sometimes less is more. We want to be able to taste everything in one cohesive bite. And once that's all done, we're going to add in a ½ cup of freshly grated Parmesan cheese. That's why we went light with the salt. And then we're going to give our mixture a mix, making sure everything is nice and combined. And then the rest of this is going to work like any other 3-tier breading station. As you all know, the chicken goes directly into the flour, making sure everything is covered. And then we're going to drag it through our beautiful egg wash, shaking off any excess you may have. And then when we put it into the breadcrumbs, you're going to see me very lightly kind of bury the top of it. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and aggressively press down on our cutlets on both sides using our hands, making sure our fillets are perfectly encrusted in those flavorful crumbs. And we're going to repeat the process with our remaining chicken pieces until we've completed them all. And then after that, it's time to fry. And a lot of you might be wondering why I brought out the deep fryer for this recipe. And that's because at this point, I can't finish the cutlets off in the oven because we have to have it set to the highest setting with the stone in for at least an hour. So we're going with the deep fryer route. Our oil is preheated to 350 degrees. I've got 1 fillet in each basket, and we're going to let these cook for 4 to 6 minutes. I will check them at about the 5-minute point. If you don't have a deep fryer or a pot to fry in, just pan fry these guys. And now that that's out the way, let's go ahead and start our unconventional Alfredo sauce. Alright, so for Alfredo sauce, one of the main ingredients is boiling pasta water. And then, of course, this is 1 stick of unsalted butter. We're going to go ahead and start melting down that butter and bringing our water to a boil. That being said, that ain't pasta water. It's just heavily salted water. And this is where the home cook gets put on the back burner and the mad chef comes out, because this is nuts. We're going to be making our own starchy water to create the emulsifying agent for our sauce. I know this just sounded like I smoked a lot of crack, but it works. So we're going to let everything melt down and start to boil, and I'll see you again whenever it's time to start making our Alfredo sauce. And guys, don't worry, it's a lot easier than it sounds. All right, and after 5 minutes, this is what our beautiful chicken cutlet looks like. It's absolutely perfectly cooked and beautifully delicious. So we're going to repeat the process for the rest of our chicken. 5 minutes, that's it. Now that our butter is melted and our water is ready, it's time to start slowly introducing the Parmesan cheese in half-cup portions at a time. As a lot of you may know, Parmesan has a higher melting point than most other cheeses, so it's going to take a little more work to get this where we need it to be. So after we add our cheese directly into the butter, we're going to start mixing it around to begin breaking it down. This is not going to be enough to fully melt our cheese, and once it's clumpy and stringy like this, it's time to start adding in our salty water, because that's going to break it down the rest of the way and get it completely melted. So once we have thoroughly incorporated that salty water and we've got our cheese loosened up like it needs to be, like you see here, we're going to continue the process of adding in half cups of Parmesan at a time until we have thoroughly melted 2 cups of cheese. And you have something that looks like this. Now granted, that ain't Alfredo sauce. It looks more like a cloudy urine sample, but we needed to get to this point before we can take it to the next level. As you can see, there's some clear separation between the melted cheese and the sauce. So what I did, and you can't see it unfortunately because it's out of range of the camera, I combined 2 teaspoons of cornstarch with just enough of that salty water to create a slurry. And once we added that in and had it on the heat for just a few seconds, we started mixing it up, and in under a minute, it was like an instant transformation. You see that? There is no separation, and it is a cohesive sauce. And that's the magic. But as it is, this sauce is a little too thick to go on a pizza. We gotta make sure this lasts 2 pizzas. So all I did was add just a little bit more of that salty water and mix it up until we have something that looks like this. This is beautiful. And the only thing that it needs now is a good healthy dose of freshly cracked black pepper, because it's just not Alfredo without it. And once we've got that situated, it's time to start working on our toppings. So on my cutting board are 2 chicken cutlets because I have 2 pizzas to make. And all we're going to do to prep this is cut them into some nice thin strips, turn them over, and then cut them in half, creating more of a bite-sized piece. Now guys, don't worry about the leftovers. These things taste incredible on their own, and they would also make an amazing chicken parm. As simple as the seasoning was, these things are absolutely amazing. So once we've gotten that taken care of, our next step is to chop up some nice fresh baby spinach. Now this step is optional, but this is going to take your pizza to the next level. My favorite Alfredo pizzas always have spinach. And now that that's cut up, we're going to transfer it into a bowl and start assembling our pizza. And this is where everything changes. And honestly guys, this video almost didn't happen. Tragedy struck as soon as I put my first pizza in the oven. Everything was going better than expected. Honestly, it was perfect until now. But once I put my first pizza in the oven, about halfway through putting it on the stone, the rest of the pizza got caught on the grates, the grooves, the cutout grooves inside my pizza peel, and I could not move it. And after several minutes of trying to gently pry the pizza off the peel, once it finally got loose, the second half of the pizza pretty much folded over on itself on the stone, making this whole first pizza completely ruined. And while the pizza was cooking, the Alfredo sauce started leaking out of it, and then it kind of glued itself onto the stone, making it almost completely impossible to remove cleanly. Now, I was able to get most of it out in one piece. That being said, several parts of this pizza broke off and started burning at the bottom of the oven. And at this point, I almost, canceled everything until I tasted it. And guys, a pizza that tastes this good absolutely has to happen. So we're going to march on, and this is how we put together the pizza, starting with our second pie. Now that we have our dough on a freshly floured work surface, we're going to get our hands all nice and dusted up and start working this dough, like we always do. I'm a big fan of doing the slaps between the hands, letting gravity pull it down and thin it out gradually. And in between these series of slaps, and guys, don't be nice to it, we're going to slap this thing like it owes us money. we're going to start trying to shape it out on the pizza pan and continuing the slaps until it's a nice thin surface. And then we're going to form it the rest of the way on our pizza pan. And yes, the pizza pan is what we're going to be cooking it on, because after the incident with the first pizza, that stone is completely destroyed and I've got to try and salvage it. Now this next part looks a little weird. We're going to be dumping that Alfredo sauce completely on the surface of our pizza dough. Now granted, the one thing that you will need to note is that this thing solidifies kind of quickly, as you can see here. But don't worry about the big chunks of Alfredo sauce. We're going to be taking our chicken pieces and we're going to be pushing it out towards the edge, making sure we have a good sauce to crust ratio. Now, another thing is, if you're still not sold on this, whenever it goes in the oven on that high temp, that sauce will break down and become a proper Alfredo sauce. And the next thing on is our beautifully cut fresh baby spinach. And then we want to top this whole thing off with some nice mozzarella cheese. This was about 4 ounces of mozzarella cheese. And then we're going to give it a nice topping of some freshly cracked black pepper. And then we're going to slide this thing in the oven on 525 degrees. And it should be done anywhere between 8 and 12 minutes. And I will see you at the reveal. There it is, my guys. I may have smoked out the entire house, ruining my first pizza. But there she is. Alright, so the big question might be, is the crust still crispy? It is. You hear the crispiness? Alright, so the only thing left to do is to try it. You know, so I was originally going to put off the tasting to tomorrow night, obviously because of how smoky it is in here. But this pizza is so good. We've got to do this tonight. "12 minutes. Perfectly crispy crust. The spinach didn't burn because we protected it with that layer of mozzarella and that Parmigiano Reggiano. That chicken is obviously still juicy. We may have burned and desecrated a whole pizza. I may have almost run myself out of the house. But this is hands down the best chicken Alfredo pizza I've ever had in my life. This tastes like real Alfredo and a damn good Alfredo. The sauce, although a bit unconventional, it worked. Now, if you guys have cooked pasta the night before, or if you're cooking pasta ahead of time, you can use that water and you could skip that cornstarch. But this is phenomenal. This, my friends, is how progress is made. It's buttery, it's savory, it's rich. The spinach comes in as an after flavor and it's just super good. That chicken is still crisp, it's tender, it's juicy. The crust is amazing. 72-hour fermentation. That's the one that failed. Flipped over on itself. But I've been picking at it because it tastes so good. This is a 10 out of 10 pizza. It almost burned my house down, but it's a 10 out of 10 pizza. Until next time, this is your boy, the Mad Chef, doing crazy things, and I'll see you in the next video.